All right, we're 2 weeks past the injury, and it's gotten a bit better. It hasn't gotten a ton better. I'm able to do a lot more just general movement. As you can see, this assault bike really doesn't hurt too much. I'm able to do most of my everyday, chores and activities, take care of the baby a little bit more with only a few spasms here and there. But I am unable to really get under the bar to squat for anything more than a red on each side, or definitely can't deadlift. So unfortunately, I've had to make the tough decision to pull out of the competition. It just wasn't meant to be this time around, which is pretty upsetting, but it's something that I can learn from. Every failure or every hiccup is an opportunity to learn something. So I've learned, I've got to be more honest with myself, especially when I'm, choosing weight selection with RPE. I've just got to be better about understanding where my body actually is versus where I want it to be. And my body wasn't ready for the weight on that day. Also, injuries are a freak thing. Sometimes they just kind of happen. And there wasn't any technique breakdown. Like I said, I've watched that video probably 1,000 times, to the point of obsession. But it didn't seem like anything was wrong with the technique. So I'm going to go ahead and chalk it up to loading and just a bit of misfortune. But that's that. We're moving into a new phase now. We're going to go into some rehab work. I'm switching programs up a little bit. So the program that I'm going to do is on Boost Camp. Excited to get back to a Boost Camp program, back to, just doing a Boost Camp program so that I can review it for you guys and see if it's something that I would recommend. It's called Jacked and Tan 2.0. I am neither jacked nor tan, so maybe this program will make me jacked and tan. But instead of starting right now, I'm going to see the family for Easter. I'm still in the early stages of the injury. So instead of going fully gung-ho for a new program, I'm going to kind of do a couple bridge weeks. So what you'll see for the next 2 weeks is the program, just a lighter version of it without a lot of the posterior chain work, and lower sets and reps and volume, and a little bit lower weight. So we're going to get into that today. I think we're going to try and hack squat, see how that feels. Happy to be back. I've had to take a couple days off. Happy to learn from the experience, to move forward, to try and get better. Like I said in the last video, I'm not quitting. And I have really just kind of cemented that mindset over the past couple of days. I really do want to compete again, but I'm going to try and strip all external time pressure away. I don't care about how old I am. I don't care if the competition lines up perfectly. I'm going to train. I'm going to try and get a bit of weight off. I'm going to try and be a little bit more bulletproof, focus a little bit more on my cardio, and make a decision about whether or not to compete towards the end of this year or towards the beginning of next year or whenever. But that's the plan. So thank you guys for hanging with me. I really appreciate it. If you've been rocking with some of these videos, please subscribe. We've been having some great growth on the channel, which I really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me. It means a lot. Like I said, these vlogs are kind of another avenue for me to gain motivation to work out. Having to film, wanting to film, kind of helps me get in the gym when the going gets tough, like when you're working through an injury or you're not doing the most fun stuff. Some of these vlogs are going to be a little bit boring in my opinion, just based on the exercises we're going to be doing. But I think we can still kind of talk through some of the process, kind of get some value in how we approach rehab and injury rehabilitation and all that. So hopefully you guys enjoy. Go ahead and like, subscribe, all that stuff. And we'll get to the workout. Principle number 1 of rehab or of injury management is trying to get as close to the movements that you want to return to without causing active pain. So for me, obviously I hurt myself on the squat, but I need to get back to squatting at some point, right? So the way to do that is to figure out squat patterns that can maintain fitness, but also don't actively harm you. So that's where the hack squat comes in. Usually I'd love to do a safety bar squat because it's a little bit closer to the main movement, but I can't perform a safety bar squat without pain right now because it hurts my back. So we're gonna get even closer. If the pain was a little bit worse, we'd probably be on a leg press. So we're kind of in the middle. So just a good perspective. Like if you hurt yourself on a specific implement or you hurt a specific movement pattern, try and find a movement pattern that is regressed, that is a little bit easier on the body, but will still maintain the fitness that you need to so that you can bring it all the way through and hopefully get back to the movement that either you hurt yourself on or the movement that you need to do for your specific sport. There's also something to be said. If you don't need to do any movements for specific sports, you can just stick on whatever implement you use forever. Like the hack squat is a great quad builder. So if you're just trying to build quad hypertrophy, if you're just trying to stay active, you can stick to the hack squat. You don't have to squat. Like that's a huge misconception. Me, I compete in the squat, so I have to get back to squatting. So that's why we're using the hack squat. But just a couple sets of 6 here. We'll see how we feel. Getting out of the machine is the hardest part. Whew. So obviously trying to stay as tight in the core, rigid with the back, really using the back pad on this. So that felt pretty good. Probably do one more. Just got to be careful with random movements. It's kind of when the spasms start, just randomly like reaching for something. Whew. Not bad. No pain during, which is kind of one of the check marks that I'm using. Any pain during the movement, we usually will adjust to a different movement, but no pain during, just a little bit kind of coming on and off of the machine. With this, I'm really trying to work on my depth. If you're struggling with, squat depth, using a hack squat, even as a warm-up before your main movements of squats, can really help kind of open up the hips a little bit. Or if that's your primary work, just really making sure that you're going as deep as possible every time. Learning what those movement patterns feel like will really help. So, all right, we're rocking some single leg press. I really am excited to kind of add some single leg work, some unilateral work to the program in general. I think a lot of times people look to unilateral work for muscle imbalances, but I find the idea of muscle imbalance has kind of been blown out of proportion by charlatans who are trying to sell you stuff. Everybody's imbalanced. We are not perfect systems. So there's going to be flaws in the human system. There are going to be muscles or sides or movements that are stronger or bigger than the other. You really shouldn't use a lot of your energy trying to iron out and go perfectionist on the imbalances. Where I do think single leg movements and single arm or single side movements help a lot is, yes, they do kind of smooth out some of the muscle imbalances, but more so they allow you to think through how each system approaches the movement. So if I can understand, okay, my right leg feels a little bit better in this position, or I'm getting some pain in my left hip as I descend into a deeper squat-like position, I can start to understand, okay, through doing these movements, I can figure out, am I leaning to one side of my squat? Am I leaning to the other side of my squat? Am I being imbalanced in my hips? And start to try and iron some of that out so that you can approach more of a symmetrical movement. Knowing that you're never gonna get there because, like I said, we are flawed human systems, so you're not gonna get the automaton type squat, but you can get close. So I'm gonna start with what I deem to be my weaker side, which is my left side. And we'll see. Not bad. I mean, definitely some issues there you can see, especially on the left side. I'm like fully blocked trying to get to the depth that I need. And I can just feel like my left side is definitely, the only words that I could use is like less stable. But that's probably a subjective feeling. But this is why we have these types of movements in here. You know, I could overcompensate with my right leg for the rest of my life and never really know. So I would encourage you, have some type of single leg, single arm, single side movement included in your program at some point. It doesn't have to be all the time. Like I said, during meet prep, I really wanted to focus on kind of staying with the two-legged movements, the bigger movements. But stripping some things away, going to the single leg movement is gonna, I think, allow me to really get a better understanding for where my weak points are. So there you go. Getting in and out of this machine is a little tough. So I'll probably cut here and we'll move on to the next thing so you don't have to see me struggle. I think I'm gonna enjoy this program. It's a big switch up. There's a lot more machine work and higher rep stuff, so oof. You guys know my thoughts on the leg curl. Fantastic exercise, especially the seated leg curl. And this, we're going for 15. I'm trying to just make everything as slow and controlled as I possibly can. The name of the game here is just tempo, tempo, tempo. Squeeze, burn. Just put on my bodybuilding hat for a couple weeks. I think I'm probably gonna do this program for like 6 weeks. And then hopefully I'll be well enough. I'm gonna run another sequence of bull mastiff, which I really enjoyed when I did that. If you haven't seen some of those videos, I would encourage you to check those out. One of my favorite programs that I've tested, just based because I like the program style or the progression style. It's less, RPE percentage based, and it's more kind of AMRAP based. I just find that sometimes you need that switch up, something to really kind of drive you. And AMRAPs, I mean, they have their place. They're tough because you can get into a lot of trouble fatigue-wise with them if you don't, again, if you're not honest with yourself. It all comes down to humility and honesty with weight selection, in my opinion. So I think if you run that program with an eye on progression rather than your first week of AMRAPs being an all-out 11 RPE, crush yourself, blood coming out of your nose, instead you look at it as this is an AMRAP for progression. So maybe you do an AMRAP at an RPE 9 where you hold one rep back and you let that progress for each wave. That's how I found the best, progress with that program. But I really did like that program a lot. I like the progression style. I like the way that it was written. I liked the programming days, the structure. It was really a lot of fun. So hopefully this will kind of be a nice bridge to get me back to, being able to kind of push myself even with the back injury. Hopefully by then it will be fully cleared up. But basically we're doing all the leg machines today, so we're gonna jump to the leg extension after I do one more set of this, and I'll see you then. Leg extension. Oof. Again, set of 15. I'm really approaching this week and next week well, not really next week, just this week as a kind of a bridge. When I have done higher volume programs in the past, I've definitely jumped in to the base level, which was a little bit higher volume than I was attuned to. So I'm learning from the mistakes I made in the past when I did like 70s powerlifter. If you've been watching for a long time, you saw that volume really just took me out and I was not able to perform the way that I needed to. And one of the things I took away from that was having a bridge block into the higher volume block. So coming off of a strength block, doing a moderate volume block, and then jumping into the week one of a higher volume block should allow you to kind of ramp into the volume a little bit better, or at least that's what I'm testing. So we're gonna see how that works. Oh man. You guys know I'm ride or die for the leg extension. It gets a bad rep. Leg extension is not going to blow out your knee. It's not going to destroy your quad. It's going to allow you to get a little bit more quad work done without being in a squat pattern. It's one of the few exercises we have that allows you to attack your quads not in a squat pattern. I love this exercise, and I think anybody that tells you that this exercise is inherently dangerous is fear-mongering, because if you're loading this exercise properly, which is where a lot of people get into trouble, but if you're loading it properly, it is not going to blow your knees out, and it is not going to tear your quads. It is actually going to increase your quad health and your tendon health in your knees. So don't be afraid of this machine. This is a fantastic machine. As long as you load it properly, you approach it with an actual mindset of training rather than, oh, let me put it on 200 and see how many I can get. That's garbage. I hate people that do that and then they say, oh, this machine is inherently dangerous. No, dude, you are inherently stupid. You absolutely improperly loaded this machine and then you're going to blame the machine for your injury. That does not fly around these parts. This is a good machine, and I think everybody should have it in their rotation at least a couple times during the year for a good 6 to 8 month block. I have experienced such quad growth. I have the quads I have today because of this machine, as well as squatting, but this machine is a great supplement. Okay, so we're gonna do one back movement today. Now, you may be asking yourself, didn't you injure your back? Why are you doing a back movement? And to that I say, I did injure my back, but the only way that I'm going to know that my back is getting back to normal and approaching the ability to be able to squat and deadlift again is to start to sprinkle in some of these back exercises. So I've chosen a very low impact back exercise, the cable row. I'm not doing barbell rows, I'm not doing T-bar rows, cable row. The reason I'm using the cable row is because this is very controllable. This is a very easily replicated rep to rep exercise so that I can tell if the fatigue that I'm starting to feel in my back is associated with weight, is associated with the general fatigue accumulation of a given set, or if it is injury-like, if the movement itself is causing me problems. Rehab is not just, ice, compression, band work, stretching. It is also getting you back under some type of load so that you can return to full function. This is the problem. A lot of people get spooked. I got spooked myself, especially with back injuries where it's like, shut it down. I'm never exercising again. I'm never getting under the bar again. That is the initial thought. And I know, I sympathize, I empathize with that thought because I had those same thoughts. But we can't live in fear. We cannot live under the yoke of, oh my God, I'm never going to exercise again. Because honestly, exercise will help you in the long run stay away from these types of injuries. So that is why we are slowly easing back into back work. Like I said, the program had deficit deadlifts and it had a T-bar row. I'm not there yet. So we've swapped those out. We're going to use the cable row. We're going to use the cable row in a very light and controlled manner to try and see where the back actually is. Even just bending like that used to be a real problem. But now I have a lot more range of motion. So we're going to see. And there you go. No pain so far. Back didn't explode. Hooray. Just 10 reps at a lighter weight. This is probably like 50% of my 1 rep max or my high top end strength on the cable row. You saw very controlled, very, very controlled. These are the things that you have to think about. It's not just hope and pray that after 4 weeks of using bands and doing toe touches, they can come back and get back under the squat and squat 600 pounds. That's not how it works. There is a slow ramping. There is a slow incremental increase in difficulty of movement, in range of motion, all that jazz. I find that injuries are such a scary thing and can be such a scary thing that there's a temptation to kind of just shut down. So I wanted to make this video specifically showing the beginnings of my rehab to show that you can still do a lot and that you can approach rehab intelligently and that it doesn't have to be your traditional, what people think of as physical therapy, band work, foam rolling. Not to say that I have anything against that stuff, but to re-engage with the actual movements that you want to be doing and that you need to be doing, you have to start implementing some of these actual exercises, for lack of a better word. So that's that. That's going to be the end of the workout for me. I feel really good. Back feels good. It's a little tight. That's totally fine. We're doing exercises. We're going to expect a little bit of pushback or resistance. Totally fine. We're going to see how it feels throughout the day, and we'll make judgments on what to do tomorrow and throughout the rest of the week. So I really do appreciate you guys hanging out with me. If you got something out of this video, if you're working through your own rehab, please let me know in the comments. That would be awesome. We can kind of support ourselves together because injuries really do suck. And I'm, working through a lot of things physically, but also a lot of things mentally dealing with this injury. So a little support would be much appreciated. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. The link for Boost Camp is in my description. You get 2 weeks free, and it helps the channel out a lot if you want to do that. If you want to chat with me or some of our fine Discord members, the link for that is also in the description. Thank you for watching. Get strong and stay strong.